and welcome to The Future of Business, the podcast where each week we discuss current business issues that will have a significant impact on the future of business in Ireland and beyond, and explore their possible consequences for people in business and for society more generally. I'm Vincent Wall, and today I'm joined by Lorcan Colclough, partner, entrepreneurial business leader in Mazars, Ireland, and Mark Kelly, co-founder of Alldus International, an artificial intelligence workplace solutions company and founder of AI Ireland, to discuss the topic of artificial intelligence, AI, in business at the moment. Lorcan, is it possible to define what we mean by artificial intelligence?
Thanks, Vincent. Yes, it is. I mean, it's interesting. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, they're very hot topics at the moment. And, you know, there's lots of buzzwords, lots of terminology. But I suppose how I define AI is it's the ability of machines to understand something of the world around them, quite simply. And it's the ability of machines, computers, to perform tasks normally performed by humans. And machine learning, to my mind, it's a further advancement on AI. It's that machines have the capability to carry out further tasks based on constant information consumption. And, you know, they're very much now at the core of some business offerings. Like if we look at finance, the area that I'm predominantly in, finance and planning, predictive analytics has been very transformational. You know, for customer services, you know, things like chatbots have been really helpful. You know, even recruitment platforms that are online have been helpful. And there's lots of good Irish examples in this space, like ChatSpace, Poppertree, Opening.io. You know, so, you know, very exciting times.
So I suppose to bring it right down to experiences that people have in their ordinary lives, artificial intelligence at its most basic level might be something like a computer-activated voice responding to mundane questions, whereas machine learning would be that computer-activated voice learning from the interactions that it has with customers or clients.
Absolutely. You know, and again, if you look at Google, you know, what they have at the core is that huge search engine capability. You look at Netflix or Spotify, they analyze your consumption and then they direct you towards films or towards music that fits with your profile.
Mark, if I could bring you in there, I suppose when most people, whether they be business owners or people working in business management teams, when they think of AI, they're wondering, what impact is this going to have on my employee numbers? You know, can I use AI to replace people? And if you're an employee, I suppose you're wondering, what does this mean for my job?
Yeah, I think when you think of AI, for a lot of people, they can think of Terminator, robots taking over the world. For an awful lot of it, it's actually just quite boring. It's automatic tasks that are quite mundane. And really, for business, you're looking at digital transformation and using AI. So you might use banking, for example. So we will go online, put in our details, and we'll look at our balance, for example, or sometimes it's text to us. Where you've got a company like Capital One in the US, you can go on to Alexa and you'll just say, what's my balance today? Read me out my transactions, pay the moving company. Actually, would you set up that transaction for me, set up a direct debit? So again, that's just a completely different digital transformation than you're using on your mobile or you're using on a desktop. So that adds a different type of experience. So when you look at customers or how people want to engage, AI can be very helpful to have consistent practices where you'll come on at a certain time. You want to know the film times for cinema, or you want to know opening times, for example. Rather than a person getting that information, an AI can feed that back to you. So very specific, narrow tasks. So how we interact with businesses and brands is completely changing. So Amazon, for example, Alexa, you will look at, in 2 years' time, 30% of businesses in North America will have some way to do business that usually you did to their website or their call center on Alexa and interact with that. So it really is going to change how we engage. Let's look at Ryanair, for example. They've got the process of when you're booking your flight, you can do voice. So again, changing the transaction rather than through mobile, rather through desktop, you're engaging to say, I want to buy this flight. Or another Irish company would be Voices, where they allow you to use e-commerce through voice. Again, get me a pair of sneakers, $100, black, size 9, ship them to me tomorrow. So these applications are happening all the time, and it's going to improve the customer experience. And people can be concerned about jobs, and for certain jobs there will be losses. So Ireland, for example, has got a lot of call centres. So we need a very purposeful strategy on how you move people who are doing some repetitive work up the food chain to have more customer-centric work. And that's a strategy that can add more value to Ireland, but it has to be very purposeful.
Mark talks about Ireland needing a strategy there, Lorcan, but does every business now, whether large or small, need a strategy in terms of AI? One, I suppose, in terms of how do I remain competitive in terms of the customer experience I offer my clients, my customers, in terms of what my competitors might be doing, but also in terms of what do I do with the employees who are currently doing work that AI might do? Do I need to retrain them? Do I need to think of replacing them?
Yeah, I think all businesses need to be very conscious of innovation and change, and what we're seeing is even businesses that are developing, software developing applications, the useful life of those applications is getting shorter and shorter. One of the items, I suppose, there that's interesting is the third level colleges, and the University of Limerick has introduced a Masters in Artificial Intelligence. Both DIT and Maynooth universities have entered into collaboration agreements with Chinese universities. So I think, as Ireland, we've shown ourselves through our education system and through our workforce to be quite an adaptable country. I think what Trinity are doing in terms of their Grand Canal Innovation District is really to be admired. And, so I'd be confident that in terms of Irish business and Irish employees that we will be able to, change and adapt as required.
Probably just add to that at that point as well. So if you're actually determining whether AI can be used in business, there's probably a few steps to follow. The first step would be is what is the business goal and what do you want to try to improve? Do you want to improve churn rate? Do you want to improve customer satisfaction? And the easiest way to do that...
When you say churn rate now, Mark, what do you mean?
So let's say a churn rate. So let's say you're on a mobile phone and you opt in to go to a different provider. There's certain metrics that you can actually see by usage from a customer's point of view and how you're actually dealing with it, that can actually prevent you actually churning. So that actually allows you to add a lot more money to the bottom line for the business, but also provide a better service. So maybe you're now doing a lot of more international phone calls. So the service plan you need isn't relevant. So you go and you opt in for a different provider. Well, if you're using analytics, you could actually say, we see that you're not using as much. We believe this plan would be a lot better for your needs. Would you be interested in it? Now, you can apply that to a bank as well, looking at, I travel quite a lot to the US, credit card company come to me and say, we see you're doing an awful lot of travel. We'd like to give you more increased points for your purchases, for your airline tickets, for your purchases, for your hotels, if you stay with our credit card, rather than me changing credit card knowing I'll get those services from somebody else. So it's in real time making those different decisions. So if you want to actually look at the business goal you're trying to solve with AI or give some type of experience, it's about understanding the problem you're trying to solve, having subject experts and data scientists or a team in a room on a whiteboard saying, this is how we're currently doing it. How can we make it more quantitative? How can we store, track and collect data in a reliable format? And how do we automate that practice to make it very consistent? People want a consistent process when they're engaging with different providers. So if you're calling to find out information on an insurance company, you're put on hold 6 minutes, it could be 12 minutes. The person you speak to might be in a good mood, might be in a bad mood, might get back to you. If you know what's going to happen each time, you'll probably be happy with a okay performance rather than a good 1 minute, not so good the next. But as a business owner, you should be thinking, start small, have a proof of concept that you want, get some feedback from customers at any one time, what's actually happening and then build it out from there. It's very exciting because AI is very good for narrow tasks, but it can get complicated very quickly, and that's where we have some issues.
And, larger companies with large resources, Lorcan, obviously need to be abreast of this. But what about smaller companies with fewer resources? Is this something they can ignore?
No, I don't think it's something they can ignore at all. And, it's interesting. At the Web Summit last week, I was listening to Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, and he was talking about the democratization of AI. So there's going to be a lot of tools, a lot of data, a lot of information that's going to be accessible to small businesses. And I think there is going to be issues and ethical issues about, availability of information and availability of product and how it's used. You're right in terms of some very large innovative projects are only going to be in the realm of the large companies. But what's interesting as well, I suppose, is that with Enterprise Ireland and the European Investment Bank, they have a fund, a 45 million fund that's invested in a number of new enterprises, and quite a number of the Irish investments are into businesses that have an AI focus. So I think there's room, as there always is, for both small and large players, Vincent.
On that basis, Mark, how are we doing compared to our peer countries in terms of one, having a national strategy on this, and two, the resources we're putting into it, whether it be money or educational backup?
Yeah, so this year I conducted 84 formal interviews with people across the country, from universities, some of the larger companies such as SAP, Microsoft, and then some startups, really to get a feel for what's the ecosystem like. And there's some fantastic companies that are doing work in vision, healthcare, logistics, some really, really interesting and exciting companies coming down the line. And we created a not-for-profit called AI Ireland, really to bring everybody together, showcase some of the fantastic work that's going on in startups, and show how you can do more with less, and how you can be more innovative, and how you can start to drive AI investment from companies to stay here. A large part of why multinationals are here are because of our education system, the opportunity, the access to Europe, and a variety of different reasons. But research is very, very important, because companies always have to justify, if they're in a location, how good the research is and how they're always going to be pushing ahead. I have seen countries such as the UK, particularly London, have a very, very aggressive AI strategy. The mayor there is particularly good at it. They would be seen as the number one in Europe, closely followed by Paris and Berlin. And Finland would have a very strong AI strategy, where they would have government user cases explaining all the benefits and how they're applying it. And this could be, I'll give you an example. In Paris, they have a lot of information and data that they would have provided by Uber on their bicycles that people would use at any one time. That information is being able to use for workflow management for the city, for traffic. So what they've done is they've improved people's commute times. They've actually reduced accidents because they're using AI to do that. They're also getting startup companies based in Paris providing services to allow them to actually kick on with that strategy. When you have a government-led strategy that comes from the top and working with industry, it really allows for job creation, purposeful education. At the moment, I would really think Ireland can be stepping up its game. I think there's some fantastic opportunities here. We've got so many big companies here. There's so many people that want to get involved and embrace it, which is fantastic. But I would like to see a more purposeful government strategy around it, because at the moment, compared to Canada, the US, UAE, Finland, as I mentioned.
So even relatively small countries and economies like Finland, we could learn from them.
We really could. And they make no hesitation to say our convictions is to be the leader in this. So they see that. And again, that mindset is about bringing digital dexterity to all, young and old, and having that kind of focus to it. So it's just purposeful. And I think it's very, very important. And that's what we set up AI Ireland to help do that.
And Lorcan, that type of strategy, I assume it's not just to enable Irish businesses working here to keep abreast of what they need in terms of AI and artificial intelligence, but also to encourage external investment in here, whether it be in AI itself or the type of businesses that AI can support.
Absolutely, Vincent. Like, an awful lot of our inward investment is in financial services and is in technology. So they're areas that AI is going to be hugely important. And I think in terms of, if you don't stay relevant, you create issues. However, I see, AI complementing how humans work. I see it increasing human creativity, emotive problem solving. So I think there's lots of opportunity. It's an area in which we can do well.
In most cases, in terms of businesses out there, are we talking about perhaps an intelligence software package when we talk about their most practical application for artificial intelligence at the moment?
So you can now buy it off the shelf. So you've got larger companies such as Microsoft who will allow you to buy some of these propensity models off the shelf where you can actually use it. So they're allowing you to get access
that will take in the data about their customer usage, their customer patterns or whatever, and actually
help you make decisions.
Build on that information to
build that on. And let's say you've got a CRM system that can help you do that. So interestingly enough, when you look at the larger companies now, they're making a lot of the AI technology, their platforms, open source. So if a startup is feeling like, I want to get involved in this, I want to do on that, they can add to these platforms and then add additional services. They just need to figure out how to do that. So there's a very big open source community in Python and or, so they're really driving it. And companies are now knowing to say, we actually can't keep this in-house, because by the time we batch it up and sell it, it'll be old. So it's a real drive to do that, which is very exciting for startup companies.
Finally, Mark, I know you have a big day next week. What are the biggest challenges you think facing businesses in terms of the changing trends in AI? And could you name one or two businesses that you think are getting it right at the moment?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier on about kind of lead scoring and finance, for example. There's also healthcare. So when we looked, there was a case study up the north where there was bed management, where a person was coming in through triage and they were actually getting allowed to get access to the beds and actually see if they're being looked after. A chatbot was pretty much making the decision on what bed they got access to rather than a nurse. And the nurse would have the final decision. What this allowed to happen was a faster turnaround of beds, less chance of a person being sick because sitting beside or lying beside a person that had a different illness. So this is really interesting for our own HSE in terms of how we can actually improve bed management. So that's one area I think.
And how we can employ the skills of that nurse more proactively.
Exactly. So that's something that's really, really exciting. And again, as Lorcan said, this is an augmentation between human and machine. It doesn't have to be one or the others. So one company, and you mentioned the awards that are actually shortlisted for the AI Awards next Thursday, is the Infant Centre. Now, the Infant Centre are funded by SFI. They're based in Cork University Maternity Hospital, and they're focused on improving outcomes for pregnant women and newborn babies. So they use data-driven innovations for improvement of nutritional support. So it's very evidence-based, and they're looking at kind of more preterm babies and better nutrition. So what this is doing is it's allowing babies to get better nutrition by looking at data, but also it can save the hospital nearly 100 grand. So there's really good benefits to be seen from that, and that to me is fantastic to see where you've got an impact to society. And having two young kids myself, it's really inspiring. Other companies, we've got autonomous vehicles where they're helping drive on our roads, looking at better kind of sensors and how to actually kind of a safer way. 1.4 million people die a year on our roads. There's a company called Photonation.
Not on Irish roads.
Not on Irish roads, and across our roads in general. It's 1.4 million people die on our roads. And one of our speakers is from Photonation. He's the CTO of Xpri, a large company. And what their software allows you to do is that, let's say you're sitting in a car and I'm falling asleep at the wheel and my head is dropping down and my eyes are dropping down. They can see with certainty where your eyes are looking and gazing, and notice that if your head is dropping down, you're probably falling asleep. They can say to you, pull over, have a coffee, Mark. You need to stop driving, or start to put aroma into the car to wake you up. 20% of people die because of inattentiveness at the wheel. They're trying to solve this problem. So again, really nice applications of AI.
Without being glib about it, I could do with that AI in the News Talk studios every morning. We'll leave it there, gentlemen. Lorcan Colclough of Mazars Ireland and Mark Kelly of Alldus International and AI Ireland. Thanks for that. The key message that I got was that artificial intelligence isn't science fiction. It's with us. It's changing the workplace for small and large companies as we speak. That companies need to think about how they employ it, whether it be intelligent software, predictive analytics, to make their customer experience better, to be more cost competitive, but also how they may retrain or indeed replace some staff with what's happening. That Ireland needs a strategy to support business here, but also to encourage further inward investment, and I suppose to get our colleges even more attuned to these changing trends in the workplace. But it's an exciting topic. It's changing the business landscape as we speak, and I'm sure we'll be returning to it. We'll leave it there for this week. So until next time, take care. Thank you for listening to The Future of Business with Vincent Wall and Mazars. We welcome any feedback to our podcasts, and particularly your suggestions as to topics we should cover. You can comment and rate us wherever you find this podcast or on mazars.ie. Bye for now.